what if I don't have enough money for the month? Right? Like, you know how you heard the phrase, too much money and not enough month, right? I mean, too much month and not enough money. So what if I don't have enough to do that? So I'll just focus on the debt first and then do the investment piece. How would you address that question?
So, it's interesting that you say this because I had a gentleman, this is years ago, that we sat down and I started working with him with his finances. And it was the first time that I realized that depending on where you live, you might not make enough money just to live. Like, we tried to do his situation with his debts and everything, and I realized that he just did not make enough money. And so that first part of this framework that I talked about that I really didn't go into is your employment. Your employment and the amount of money that you bring into the household is very, very critical to how fast you're going to get out of debt, and even if you're able to survive. So here's what you have to think about. There's a couple of things that you have to think about. What skills do I have? And maybe the investment is investing in you getting better skills so that you can get a higher paying job so that you can do those types of things, okay? So I do believe in looking at your skills and saying, okay, what can I do to improve my stature in life by being able to have skills that demand higher increases in salary. So that's one thing. And that's probably something that we all have to constantly be doing, is improving our skill set to improve the finances that come into our household in the beginning anyway. The second thing that I told this young man is that he may need to start looking at, and I believe in this wholeheartedly, he may need to look at starting a business on the side. And we call it side hustles these days, but the answer to that is, what are you building for you? Because when you're going on somebody else's job, you're building for them, you're building for their family, right? But what are you building for you? And there's so many people who don't have anything that they're building for themselves. And I don't care what it is. If you got a truck, go get you a lawnmower and go start cutting some grass on the weekend. Go do some things that's going to actually help you get out of debt. Do some things that's going to actually help you from a financial perspective, but that also helps you should you ever get laid off, you got something else that you can fall back on. 2, it allows you to have that extra income that's coming into your household for you to be able to do those things that I actually talked about. So you're right. If a person does not have enough money that's coming in, they have to address the money coming in. You got to get the cash flow, and you got to find that cash flow from somewhere. I've been to the point where I sold so much of the stuff that I had in the house that I wasn't using. Sold all of that, used that money to pay down my debt. I threw newspapers for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I started a janitorial business and I cleaned toilets on the weekends. It was called Clean Right Services. And I did all of those things leading up. I sold cars part-time at CarMax in Kennesaw, Georgia. So I know what people are dealing with when they get to that point of saying, I don't have enough money. But here's the other thing that you have to look at. If you're finding yourself and you don't have enough money to do those things, but you look outside and you got a BMW parked in your driveway, it's time for you to take that BMW back and go get you a used Toyota, a used Honda. And this is where the discipline comes in, because people oftentimes they have the ability, but they don't want to let go of some of the things that's holding them down. Nobody wants to turn the BMW in for a 2005 Toyota Corolla. Nobody wants to do that. But sometimes that's necessity.
Yeah, absolutely. No, perfectly said, man. I love it because I think one of the things that we're getting into is that esteem conversation, right? Being more concerned with how somebody outside of my living situation view me. Sure, I got a BMW in the yard and people are, in the neighborhood say, oh man, they got a nice BMW, blah, blah, blah. But that does not do anything for my future. And so I
Right.
love where you're going with this because I think you're absolutely right. Get outside of the fictitious notion of what somebody else is thinking of you. Chances are they're probably not even thinking what you're thinking they're thinking anyway. So let's bury that and let's dive into this thing. And I love the fact that you brought discipline into this conversation because you are 100% correct. It takes discipline, number one, to eliminate the debt that you created because of the lack of discipline, first and foremost, right?
Right.
Now, once we move outside of that, get to the point where eliminate that. And I want to say this before we move on because I so much love the fact that you brought in the concept of understanding your self-worth. If you look at your paycheck over the month and you're not making what you feel you're worth, then I need to improve I need to scale myself. I need to improve my skills. Maybe I need to go back to school and increase my profit margin, right? This is how I value myself now. One of the best conversations I think I was a part of when I was getting out of the Army, it was a GS-14. She came and did our Department of Labor workshop. She said, go into my pay. And she said, go print off this page. There's a number at the bottom. She said, do not accept a job less than that. Trust me, that stuck with me. I promise you, if I didn't learn anything else for retirement,
Right.
that one thing stuck with me. And I think that's important. People need to understand their self-worth.
Yeah.
A lot of times, because I don't want to believe, and I want to say it this way, I don't want to believe that people just haphazardly created debt, even though I understand that happens. I want to believe that people create debt because they feel they were taking care of their families. That's the thing. Like you said, the young man, he was looking at his paycheck, and he just didn't make enough money. But he probably got wife and kids and things of that nature, and no man wants to feel
Right.
less than a man. No mom wants to feel less than a mom. You know what I'm saying? It hurts to tell your children that you cannot have that in a lot of cases. And so that's what we got to look at. We got to look at, boosting self up, being more marketable, bringing in the net worth that you feel you're worth, first and foremost, and then teaching your kids, because what you don't realize is these are lessons they're picking up. They're picking these lessons up from your behavior. So, man, I know I hit the pause button because you was starting to sprint, right? But you're spot on, sir. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, all great stuff, man. All great stuff. Please continue, though. Please continue.
And I love what you just said. The gentleman that I was working with, what he ended up doing is on his job, he had access to a lot of scrap metal. And so he started picking up and selling scrap metal on a part-time basis. And he got himself to the point where he got out of debt. And once he got out of debt, that really left a lot of more money back on the table for him to, really start doing things. But he didn't stop there. In my background, I've been a recruiter. I've been a recruiter for many different companies. And so I would sit down with him. I helped him write his resume. I helped him learn how to interview. We went through interview skills. I taught him how to negotiate his salary. Now, he's with the same employer, but when he went in for a promotion, there was a promotion that he applied for, and he submitted his resume and he interviewed, and he did not get the job because they had the job slated for somebody else. But he said that when he interviewed, when he did all the things that I told him to do, he said they looked at him and they did not recognize him because he had a new skill set. He presented himself in a way that made them pay attention to him. And the next time a promotion came up, he got it. And he's gotten several promotions since that time. And so a lot of times it's just a small tweak in the way that we present ourselves, the way that we show ourselves, because if we don't step up and elevate our game, a lot of times our employer will leave us in that position that we're in and leave us there for 10, 15, 20 years. But it's up to you to show that you are eager to go to the next level, and then show them that you have the skill set, that you have the ability to communicate that in an interview where they're looking at you totally different. He put on a suit and a tie, and I told him exactly what to do, and he did that. He was He was not even disappointed the first time that he didn't get the job, but what he was excited about was the fact that they pulled him off to the side and they were like, we didn't know. We didn't know that you had these types of abilities and skills. And when they looked at his resume, when I tell you, he gave me his resume, he wrote his resume on a piece of paper. He didn't know how to write a resume. His resume was written on a piece of paper, and we sat down. And so sometimes those are the skill sets that I'm talking about that you've got to develop. And if you know that you're horrible at an interview, if you know that your resume looks jacked up, find somebody that can help you in those areas, because those areas mean so much. They definitely do. They definitely do. So thank you for bringing that up. That made me go back and think about that. And then
I'm saying again, I apologize, but I just know for a fact that I know that there's somebody someplace, like when you started, they kind of wrote themselves out of the conversation because they didn't feel that they were where you were. So I just wanted to make sure that we went back and bring those people back to the conversation, because no one should walk away from this conversation not feeling empowered. So that was the only reason why I wanted to bring that up. But sir, you were right on, and I love it. I love it because I heard one phrase a long time ago, and then I'm turning it back over to you. A phrase somebody said one time, a long time ago. They said, if you put yourself on discount, the world will not ask you to improve your price. So I just love that statement, because that kind of leans into what you're saying. Right? Think highly of yourself and then put it out there for the world to understand it.
I love that. I love it. So I want to get back to the 401k, because I see a lot of people missing out on that. If your company offers a 401k and you just don't understand what that means, you've got to find someone. There's too many YouTube videos out here that we can go find and listen and learn and figure out what this actually means. And so if your job is offering a 401k and they're offering a match, you've got to participate in that, because that's free money that they're giving you. And so even if you don't know what all of that means and you think I need all of my money, usually what we do is we raise our standard of living every time we get an increase in pay. And we've got to learn how to discipline ourselves so that we can actually start having some of that money for ourselves, instead of sending it off to, Samsung, or sending it off to Cadillac or BMW. They're going to be okay. Yeah. You've got to take care of your family so that you're going to be okay as well. And so, we get into the investing, and investing is a long-term approach. It is a long-term approach. I want people to have a long-term view of investing, not this get-rich-quick type of investing that we see and that we often hear these days. I just heard of some other new coin that came out, crypto coin that came out, and it created all these quote-unquote millionaires. And a lot of people are running trying to chase that. And I don't believe that's a game that we can win if you're not already indoctrinated in that. I don't believe that that's a game that you can win. I do believe, though, is that if you say, hey, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to invest in some great mutual funds, I'm going to invest in an ETF, some index funds, and I'm going to just invest long term, I believe that you can win there. If you say, hey, I think what I want to do is I want to start a business on the side, and I'm going to work my business part-time, I think you can create wealth doing that. And just stick and stay with the things that are true and the things that you know, and don't try to get into the complicated things. If things are complicated, obviously you want to study, but even I stay out of the complicated investing. As much of an investor that I am, I stick with the basics. The companies I invest in, most people would consider boring. I invest in Microsoft, I invest in Apple, and those are my two big holdings, is Apple and Microsoft. And I don't go off into these wild things that other people tend to invest in. Those are the tried and true. And so I teach a class. In my stock class, I teach people the basics of investing. I teach them to learn the different types of markets. And what ends up happening is that by the time they're done with the course, they realize that they don't want to trade stocks. They realize that maybe I ought to go over here and get me a mutual fund and just put money in the mutual fund and let the mutual fund managers manage that. And I can go over here and build my business and just put money in my mutual fund. And that's what probably 90% of America needs to do, is they need to go get a mutual fund, they need to go get an index fund, and then go get a part-time business and start building a business that maybe eventually will become a full-time business. Take the money that you earn from that and just keep investing into your mutual fund. That's 90% of the people. And that's the reason why I create the basic class, because I want to give you the fundamentals so that you can realize what it takes to play on a higher level. You'll see that, you know what? I don't want to be watching the stock market every day. I don't want to have to turn on CNBC and listen to stuff that I may not understand. I understand that I want to invest in some good, solid companies. I understand the basics. I'm going to go get a mutual fund. I'm going to go get an index fund. I'm going to invest there. I'm going to invest in my 401k, make sure my company matches that. And once I do that, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go build a business. Because a millionaire told me this. He said, your best investment is a business, not stocks. He said, because when you're investing in a stock, you're investing in somebody else's company. Go create your own company. You're investing in somebody else's company and they're giving you a portion of their winnings, a portion of their gains. But when you go and invest and build your own company, you get 100% of that, right? Yeah. And you got something now that you can leave for your children's children as well. So I'm a big believer in people starting a business, whatever it might be, start a business.